How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another video. And it's not every day that I make a video like this, but my god, this had to be made. It's not every day that we see Xbox absolutely breaking someone to the point of no return. And I do absolutely mean that. This guy is literally broken. MBG has finally succumbed and has, I guess after the ABK news, just completely and utterly just finished. I genuinely do not know how much more he can take, but the guy has lost it. I expect at least another maybe 4 or 5 streams from him about this, but Jesus, man, he is truly broken. Bro, I will die on this hill. Sony, Nintendo, or even Microsoft paying for timed exclusivity is just as bad as exclusivity due to acquisition, since while one is longer term, it can also result in consumer benefit, which paying for exclusivity won't accomplish. So what they're saying here is, if you buy the company, it can actually benefit the player because it actually can go through Game Pass and stuff like that. That's what I'm understanding here. But what MBG is saying here is Xbox good. I mean, Xbox bad, PlayStation good. And let's just listen to what he has to say and just break it down, because I mean, this is like descending into madness now. Let's see.
There's a huge difference. There's a huge difference. And that, I think, helps highlight the point I'm trying to make here when it comes to the concern surrounding Microsoft. People can get as upset as they want about the third-party games that Sony has locked down as exclusives. And that's fine. I think it's a good reason to get upset. If you're an Xbox owner, or you're on PC and you find out a certain game that would have come to your platform is not because Sony paid to keep it off, usually timed for a year, on rare occasions, sometimes not.
That's a whole lot of bollocks, because a lot of the games that are exclusive to PlayStation are pretty much exclusive. We've seen this with Final Fantasy. We're going to see this with Silent Hill. There's no exclusivity deal there. It is literally an exclusive. We've seen this with games like Death Stranding. And so many more, right? So he's already chatting shit there, but let's continue.
Sometimes it's permanent. It's a good reason to be upset. But no matter how upset you get about that, people need to understand. I don't care how much of a fanboy you are. I don't care how much you want to just continue to ride Microsoft and Phil Spencer and Game Pass. I don't care. You need to accept, because it's just the fucking truth.
Why the fuck you lying?
That what Sony has done when it comes to buying third-party exclusivity is not the same.
Stop fucking lying.
As buying video game publishers.
Okay, so what he has to understand here is, during the 360 days, Microsoft was doing it as well, right? Let's be realistic. They were. But after the 360 era, due to the rise of the PS4, and the PS3 actually overtook the 360 in sales and stature and just everything by the end of the generation, the PS4 just took a meteoric rise. And Sony took this, that momentum and pushed it that bit further. Now, what they don't realize, right, is that they started this in terms of going above and beyond. When Microsoft did exclusive deals with Call of Duty, it was for 2-3 months, not for a year. But Sony decided to push that boundary to a year, sometimes to 2, sometimes indefinitely. So when Microsoft came along and wanted to make these deals, especially with their lower market share, well, they didn't have the bargaining power to fight. And with that came Sony putting clauses in place that actually prevented Microsoft from getting these deals, because Sony put clauses in place to prevent that from happening. So he's perfectly okay with that. But when Microsoft come along and say, right, instead of paying this much money, why don't I just buy you? And then I can just take everything I want. I mean, Sony started it, Microsoft finished it. At the end of the day, he can cry all he wants, but that is the reality. whether you're paying for third-party exclusivity and preventing other publishers from releasing their games on Xbox, or me going and buying the publisher and preventing my games now going on the other platform, it's the same thing. You have indefinitely prevented a game from coming on my platform. So I have gone and bought the publisher and indefinitely made it so it won't go on your platform. Sure, I now own the publisher and everything that publisher makes is mine, but you started it by going down this route, by making things 1, 2, 3 years exclusive or indefinite exclusive. You started it. You know, Sony started this. And it's kind of sad, but it is weird that he's, going Sony good, Microsoft bad. It's like, why? Anyway, let's continue.
Period. End of discussion. It is not the same.
It is exactly the same.
You know how I know people still don't get that?
How?
People still don't get that?
Go on.
Let me show you. Let me read it to you.
Come on.
I'm going to go over to my Twitter profile.
Go on, do it.
I put out a tweet the other day. I said, Microsoft and Phil Spencer believed the gaming industry would be a better place if they owned Nintendo and Valve. What does that sound like to you? Imagine cheering that on and praising that mentality.
Okay, I want to cover this because I was going to actually make a separate video on this. But let's be realistic. They are a corporation. Corporations look to buy other corporations to build up their portfolio. Nintendo has been in this weird spot where they're just doing their own thing. And the only way you can play Nintendo games is by buying a Nintendo platform. Now, if Sony or Microsoft actually went and bought Nintendo, Sony would basically make it so only PlayStation fans can play Nintendo games. Period. But if Microsoft bought Nintendo, not that I'm saying anyone should buy it, but I'm just saying in a hypothetical universe where Microsoft did buy it, you'd have Nintendo games on the cloud, you'd have it on PC, you'd have it on Xbox. You'd have it on 3 separate locations, right? Cloud, which means you can play it anywhere. You'd have it on Xbox and PC. Which one is better to you? Having it on one platform, the PS5, because if the conversation was reversed, he'd be cheering for this like the second coming of whatever deity you want to use, right? He'd be cheering for this. He would be absolutely praising it, just like they were when they bought Bungie. Even though they got a raw deal with Bungie, he would be praising this, right? So I don't get it. I don't get it. One way, more gamers get to play those games. In the other way, he'd be cheering if less gamers got to play it.
And then this jackass responded to me, and he had 120. He got over 8,000 views on this reply, and had over 123 people agree with what he said. Which this is why I have to continue to talk about this, because people they either don't understand or they don't want to understand. He says, compared to Sony paying to keep games off the Xbox platforms, I swear you clowns try to be hypocritical for craps.
But that is exactly what Sony would have done, right? They would have bought Nintendo, made all Nintendo games only on PlayStation, so you'd have to buy a PlayStation console in order to play it. It wouldn't be like Xbox, where Nintendo would become first party, which means all their first party games would be on the cloud. So you wouldn't even need an Xbox to play those Nintendo games. All you would need is Game Pass and a device that is capable of streaming the game. Crazy. He continues to get really upset.
I had to reply to this guy. And this is the reply I have to give to all of these dumbasses. So you just compared Microsoft wanting to acquire Nintendo and Valve to Sony striking some third-party exclusivity deals, most of which are timed, and then called me a clown?
Let's be realistic. Valve would not be selling to anyone. Let's make that clear. Valve just isn't a Steam store. They've got loads of other little entities around that make Valve what Valve is. They've got their in-house studios, they've got their hardware, they've got their software. It's not just the one thing. I know just Gabe is the owner, but I can never see PC going that way. I can never see Steam going that way. Nintendo, maybe, even though they are self-sufficient right now, maybe in the future they might want to. I can't see them wanting now, but he's really taking this personally now, isn't he?
Holy shit, dude. This is where we are. This is where we are. And you know, that's the thing. I really was thinking about this person's reply and all the people that agree with him. And I was thinking to myself, you know...
Oh God, he's thinking, guys. Even
this guy has either been brainwashed or just truly is that ignorant.
There is nothing
it has
ignorant
to
about
be
it.
one or the other. Because you could tell with his reply he wasn't trolling. And you could tell maybe at least some people who agree with him weren't trolling either.
But the reality is, more gamers would play Nintendo games. That is a reality. If Sony bought Nintendo, less people would get to play them. And if Sony was actually announcing to buy Nintendo, you can bet your bottom dollar that his reaction would not be like this.
And this is what concerned me, because it's like...
He's just upset that Sony isn't in a position where they can afford to make big moves like this. And the ABK deal that got approved has actually broken him, because he was so adamant that it would get rejected by the CMA. He was so pro-CMA, laughing at everyone that it's going to get blocked. And now this.
Dude, Microsoft has these people fucking brainwashed. Microsoft and their fan base have these people brainwashed. And the reason why they're brainwashed, it's obvious. It's because they have convinced them that these things are the same. And that it's okay. It's okay that Microsoft's response is to send fucking emails where somebody like Phil Spencer says, Nintendo just doesn't realize their future exists outside of their own hardware.
There's literally nothing wrong with that statement. All Phil Spencer is saying is their games are amazing. Nintendo makes fantastic games, but it's limited to a subset of an audience on a hardware, right? On the Switch. What if, quadruple that could access their games through the cloud, or through PC, or through the Xbox? How cool would that be, having more people to play more games? That is what Phil Spencer meant by that statement.
Are you fucking kidding me? This is their champion. This is who they cheer on.
He is so salty.
This is their leader, man. Where it's
this is pure jealousy right now. He is so jealous that Microsoft is in a position where they can actually make these big moves. He is so hurting. Just look at him. He is hurting right now that Sony cannot do these big moves. Sony can't go for these big publishers. ABK was massive, let's be realistic. But the fact that they are toying with the idea of Nintendo just shows that Sony is a small fry in this. The only companies that really can compete with Microsoft are the ones Phil Spencer originally said. Amazon, Google, and Apple. Not Sony. Sony may have the market share, but that actually worked in favor of Microsoft. I think this was their plan all along. They were hurt with how, certain games did. Like Redfall, I'll give them that. You saw the rage in Phil Spencer's face. But I genuinely am starting to think that they downplayed themselves quite a bit in order to be able to buy big publishers like ABK.
It's like, hey, Microsoft told me they're the same. Sony is wrong. I'm not here to justify Sony's practices. I've already stated I would be totally fucking fine if Sony dropped third-party exclusivity today.
Why the fuck you lying?
I don't need third-party exclusivity.
Why you always lying?
To engage with the PlayStation platform.
Stop fucking lying.
If Sony didn't have their third-party exclusivity, they would not be where they are today. So you are fully chatting shit.
Be happy about it.
No, you wouldn't.
I don't.
No, you wouldn't.
And
for the longest time, you have been championing Final Fantasy exclusive, that exclusive, best platform to play this, Spider-Man this. If you stopped your third-party exclusives, Spider-Man's first party, I guess, kind of, maybe, I don't know. That one's a grey area. But You've been championing third-party exclusives for ages and singing their praises. Don't go playing Two-Face now.
Frankly, I'm at a point where, considering how all of this is escalated, I don't want third party. Sony, please stop making third party deals.
See, what's happened there is his accepted defeat. Because he knows that if Sony continues to do these third party deals, Microsoft will just buy more. And he knows this. He fully well knows this, and that's why he's accepted defeat.
Because that's what they tell you, right? Oh, well, Sony deserves this. They had it coming. Well, what happens if Sony stops? Does Microsoft stop?
No. At this point, you've opened a Pandora's box. Why would they stop? If they can get away with it, they are going all the way. The reality is, you shouldn't have opened a Pandora's box. Well, not him, but Sony. But these people championed it, and they wanted it, and they supported it, and now that it's backfiring, they're upset? Really?
Oh, wait. No, they don't. They don't stop. Oh, that's right. We can't shake hands. There is no shaking hands because it won't stop.
Well, I mean, Jim Ryan made that perfectly clear during the FTC trial that he never wants to be friends with Jim Ryan or get into proper business. We saw this by the way he valiantly fought to block the ABK deal. And on top of that, when asked, would you do exactly what Microsoft's doing and make games exclusive, he refused to answer. He pleaded the fifth. Why would he do that? Why? Why would he do that? Why wouldn't he turn around under oath and say, I wouldn't do that? Because MBG, Sony would have done exactly the same thing, right? And you would have been perfectly happy with this.
Phil's focused on his career-defining moment.
Of course he is.
I'm sure Jim is as well. I'm sure all of these executives are.
Moment.
But again, the difference is Jim's not out here trying to fucking convince anybody of anything other than please just fucking buy our products. And we hope you're happy.
That's not necessarily true. They're trying to do that by restricting games coming to the other platform and making all the games come to their platform. There go, telling the community and the public, this is the best place to play your games because we have all the third-party exclusives. It doesn't work both ways, my friend. It doesn't. It doesn't work that way, right? Everyone knows that it doesn't work that way. But, yeah, I think this guy has literally broken. There is another clip here that we got over here where he actually continues to rant on. You can't just green the jealousy coming at MBG with how Xbox treats their consumers compared to Sony. And, you know, it's bad. He's really, really, really hurt. And honestly, I think he should stop doing these podcasts. I guess they're giving him super chats and stuff like that. So he's actually okay with it. But I think genuinely that's the only reason he's doing these at this point, because he's got sympathizers that are sympathizing with him, with the Sony cronies, as I like to call them. And I mean, at the end of the day, if you go up against a supergiant, a titan like Microsoft or Apple or Amazon or Google, and you want to go head to head with them, let's disregard Stadia for a second because that was just badly managed, right? But if it had anyone with a bit of common sense running Stadia, it would still be here today and have all these games that Microsoft is pushing to the cloud on Stadia, and Stadia would have survived. But they didn't have anyone with a brain working there. But the reality is, if you poke the bear and you poke it real good, guess what's going to happen? The bear's going to fight back. And that's what's happened here. The bear fought back. And now he's upset. While the exclusives were raining in, he was happy. While the exclusives were pouring in and Microsoft were getting their games late or there were missing features, he was over the moon. But now, the tables are turning. And they're turning real fast. And I can see Sega joining Microsoft as well. That relationship is too good. I think if that happens, I really worry for this guy's mental health, because he's taking this real hard. Well, that's it. I mean, there is 2 more clips here. I'm going to stop here. I'll link this in the description below for those that may want to listen to it because the video is getting too long. There is another one that I've been seeing regarding what is an RPG, and Reforge Gaming talking about, you know, Spider-Man being an RPG. And I think he's, at this point, I think he's joined MBG in finally losing the plot. I think it's actually got to that point. If you want to see a reaction to those and my thoughts on it, let me know in the comment section below. Let's have that discussion, and I'll see you in the next one. Right. Thanks so much for watching. Remain legend.